All right, welcome back for example 2. Before we get started, let's actually talk about negative exponents. Okay, negative exponents are any non-zero number raised to a negative power equals 1 divided by that number raised to the opposite positive power. Okay, now that's a lot of words. Let's go ahead and decode this. Before we do that, let's look at this example. Okay, so for this example right here, we have 5, and this is our base. And look here, raised to the negative third power, that is our negative exponent. Okay, so let's see what this says about this negative exponent here. So it says any non-zero number raised to a, okay, so non-zero number, any non-zero number raised to a negative power, that would be this right here. So any non-zero number raised to a negative power. So non-zero number, that's 5. Okay, so 5 is our non-zero number raised to a negative power. That's this negative 3 right here. Okay, so all this is talking about this. Any non-zero number, it's not 0, it's 5. 5 isn't 0. Raised to the negative power equals, equals, that would be this. 1 divided by, so we have 1 here, and this fraction, that means divided by. So 1 divided by that number, so that number raised, okay, so that number, so 5 is the same number, right? That number, it's referring to the number here, so 5 raised to the opposite positive power. Ooh. This is kind of fun. The opposite positive power. So it's the same thing, right? Except this negative 3, when it goes down here and it flips to the bottom, right? We're in the top of the fraction and now we're to the bottom. It goes from negative to positive. Isn't that interesting, right? And so what does that equal? That would equal yeah, so that's the same thing as 1 to the 5 times 5 times 5, right? Which is the same thing as 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. Ooh, isn't that fun? All right. Do you see it? Do you see it? Okay, so what I like to think about is whenever I see something this with a negative in the exponent, I'm thinking, you know what? Because basically you have a fraction, right? A fraction has a top and it has a bottom, right? And so when that this can be written as this, right? So this is in the top of the fraction and this is in the bottom. So whenever there's a negative exponent, it's like, I almost kind of think like it's like a negative attitude. Like this 3 has a really, really bad attitude. And so sometimes when you have a bad attitude, you just need to change up your scenery. So that's why we're going to go ahead and flip this from the top to the bottom. Okay, and we're just going to flip it, and then when we flip it, it becomes positive. Okay, so that's just my fun little thing I like to think about sometimes. All right, so let's look at some examples. Ooh, this one. Okay. I'll fix the camera there. All right, so what do you see? I see this negative exponent. It's a negative 3 right there. So we need to change it to a positive. So no problem. All we do is flip it. So we just write whatever this is. So this is a negative 2, right? And when we're going to change it to the bottom, instead of writing it negative, we have to write it positive, like that. Okay? So then this becomes, hold on a second. Sorry about that little noise. That was a nice little noise. I'm adjusting my light. I just feel like I need a little bit more light. Okay? All right. So then this becomes 1 over negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, right? And negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. So we have 1 over Negative 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And I think I'm going to write it like this. Negative 1/8. I like to write it like that. And that is our answer. All right. Let's look at the next one. So we have another negative number. Okay? So you see that negative right there in the exponent. It's a negative exponent. No problem. We can get rid of that negative exponent just by flipping it. So we're going to go 1. It's the same thing as 1 divided by 3 to the same thing. It's just 3 to the 4th, right? And then we're just going to rewrite it. So 3 to the 4th is the same thing as 1 over 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay. 3 times 3 is 9. And 3 times 3 is 9. And 9 times 9 is 81. So it would be 1 over 81. So that is the same thing as 3 to the negative 4th. Isn't that cool? All right. Let's do a couple more. Let's move on to C. I think I'm going to change up my color. I feel like I need a little green in my life. Okay. So we have 5 to the negative 3rd power, right? Whenever we see that negative exponent, that means that we just are going to write the same thing, but this is the same thing as 1 divided by 5 to the 3rd. See, it's very negative. It just needs to change from the top. It's in the top, needs to go to the bottom. So then it can have a positive attitude. It's always good to have a positive attitude, you know, even when you're doing math. Okay, so 1 over 5 to the 3rd is the same thing as 1 divided by 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. I feel like we've done this problem before. Oh, we did up there. 125. Okay. Sometimes it's nice to just do a problem again. Okay, there we go on that one. All right, let's look at this one. Ooh, this one has a negative number. Okay, so we have that negative 3 here. It's raised to the negative 3rd. So whenever you have that negative in the exponent, that is the same thing as 1 divided by 10 to the positive 3, right? Which is the same thing as 1 over 10 times 10 times 10. And that is the same thing as 1 over, with 1, 2, 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 1,000. So negative, oh, I forgot the negatives. Oh my goodness, this is negative. Joy. Okay, so this would be, my bad. You're probably like, what are you doing? This would be negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10. So we have a negative times a negative, right? That's a positive. Times a negative would be a negative. I'm going to write it again. It's just, you know, sometimes you just have to really accentuate that negative, especially on quizzes and tests, because sometimes if you write it like that, it's very hard to see. So you just need to take the time and write it again so you can really accentuate that negative. All right. That is that. So E and F. How about you go ahead and try E and F on your own and try it. When you get done, so I want you to pause your device. When you get done, press play and we'll go over it together. So here's my friend the pause dragon, reminding you to pause your device. Go ahead and work out E and F, and when you get done, press play and we'll talk about it. All right, see you in a bit. See you in a bit. You can do it. All right, let's see how you did. So, right, we have that negative exponent, which means it's the same thing as 1 over the same thing raised to the positive power. 4 to the 3rd, 1 over 4 to the 3rd is the same thing as 4 times 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4, what is 16 times 4? 6 times 4 is 24. Write the 4, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. 64. All right. So 1/64th is the answer. If you got that one right, woohoo, you did great. Okay, so 1/64th is the same thing as 4 to the negative 3rd power. Okay, let's see how you did on -6. And whenever there's these parentheses here, that means that the whole thing is raised to the -2 power. So Okay, so we see that negative. So it's going to be the same thing as 1 over negative 6 raised to the positive 2, right? And this is the same thing as negative 6 times negative 6, which is the same thing as a negative times a negative is a positive. So 1 over 6 times 6 is 36. So if you got that one right, you did a wonderful job, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.